My name's Anne Bray, and the photo was taken in Winchester on St Giles's Hill, overlooking the city. I don't really have a clear memory of when it was taken, actually, but although I associate it with the time when Peter and I were engaged, our engagement, we got engaged, I think the 2nd of September 1981, and then a few weeks later, when we'd got the ring and we wanted to share our news and celebrate, we had a party at home, and I think it might have been that weekend or the next day we went out with a friend up onto the hill, and that picture was taken. But it wasn't, let's go and take some engagement photos or something. It's, we're out and this is a nice place, let's take a picture. And it must be a picture that at some point I chose and put up in a frame. And so then I've remembered it and gone back to it and looked at it, and it's a place I've revisited as well. So memories, the pictures help you to make memories, don't they? Peter and I were first introduced as in February 1981, and by May that year we found ourselves, as well as being part of the same church, which meant we came together to do certain things. So in May that year we were going together on, well, not together, we were both going on an event which was called the May Morning Walk. This is where we met at a certain place in Winchester at 7 o'clock in the morning on the Sunday, and went for a walk, and then had breakfast and a short act of worship. And I've never been very good at getting up in the mornings, but I used this as a reason to ask Peter to come and sort of pick me up, knock my door, make sure I was up and didn't miss it. Whatever. So that was what he did, and I think that same morning we carried on and went and did a longer walk, and I guess that was our beginning of our relationship, and that was in May. And then over the next several months, you know, we spent a lot of time together, and there were I think 2 occasions, of which one I think was on St Giles's Hill, when he said to me, can I ask you the question now? And I said, no, not yet. I'm not ready. This was we had only known each other a matter of weeks. I think one of those times was on St Giles's Hill. Another one was another place locally in Winchester. And then one evening, well, so the 2nd of September, that year, when we were just in the flat that I lived and shared with a friend, and she wasn't around, and it was just that evening. And he asked me then, would I marry him? And I said yes, without thinking that time. So I guess for him that was sort of the third time, and yeah. So it was St Giles's Hill. Somewhere in those few months, it had been a place we'd been to, and yeah, just a nice little spot to go for a Sunday afternoon walk or whatever. And it still is a special place, and especially because Simon, my son, took his girlfriend Sarah there and asked him to marry her there as well. So, ooh. I just knew I liked him as soon as I met him. And he was just gentle and kind, and he was intelligent and practical. He always did a good job. He didn't, and he was forgiving. I mean, there were people who he would sort of say odd things about to judge them, but I think far more less than I did, and he would just be a friend to anybody, and support them. He did that particularly in his work, but his main love was to be outside in the garden or farming, enjoying the fresh air, growing things, and time with family. Yeah, being a great dad and a great husband. And we miss him so much. You know, you talk with friends and other widows about what you miss and what you have to take on, and you know how hard it is, but you don't often talk about the person and what they did, because it's hard, I suppose, and because nobody else really knows quite like you did. And to keep going, you build a new identity with life on your own. You do things differently, and because things aren't the same as they were and never will be, and in accepting that, you do things differently rather than stand still. And that's something you can do in time, but an image which I use is expanding my world, and your loss doesn't diminish, but you just put it into a bigger space, and then it's not so overwhelming.